Hey guys, this is Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is the 5th episode of the 6th season of The Walking Dead. And man, I don't know what your opinions are on the show. Frankly, I don't care because I'm the one shooting this video, so in your face. But this show just knows what buttons to press to keep me watching. It's like last week, 2 weeks ago, everything that happened. You had Glenn, you had Michonne and her little group and everything that happened there. You had Rick, and then last week they showed us a really good episode, really well done episode with Morgan. But it was like, okay, I want to know what happened with Glenn. And this week it's like, we're still not going to tell you, but everybody thinks he's dead. And so here's the main problem that I have with this. A lot of this episode revolves kind of around Maggie. Well, she's not the main focus, but there's a lot talking about her and kind of, how she is dealing with the fact that Glenn is possibly dead. Here's my problem. They've already done this story before, kind of. The difference now is that she's pregnant. But they did this story in season 4. They talked about it on The Talking Dead a little bit. They did this story where she thought he was dead, and then the whole bus is full of walkers, and Glenn was on there. And then they show her she's on the bus. She starts crying, and it's just like, what is he? And then she gets off, and she's like, he's not on there. And she's like, well, you just faked us out. So I feel like if they do it again, if they show that scene with Glenn, whether it's Nick on top of him or whatever, they showed that scene, they tried to make us think that Glenn was dead, and then Maggie thinks he's possibly dead, and then she goes out and he's still alive. I'm like, they've already done that. I couldn't imagine, the writers of the show are geniuses. I can't imagine them doing the same story again. And if they do, maybe they'll do it clever enough, but I can't imagine them doing that story well enough to where at first, we'll all be relieved, be like, Glenn's still alive! And then, when you think about it, it's like, but wait, they've done that story? And why did you try to trick us? And how did he... And I thought about this comparison a little while ago and whether this makes sense to you or not. Like I said, don't care. I'm shooting this this video. I'm kind of a video game app addict. It's bad. Candy Crush is the worst of my addiction. If I'd ever gotten into Clash of Clans, I'd probably be doing that instead of shooting this video. I get addicted really fast, really easily. Candy Crush Soda Saga, when they added that, I got it and I started playing, and now I'm all the way caught up to the end. They added this new feature, not just on Soda Saga, on both of them, where it shows you now when there's a hard level. And when I saw that at first, I was like, that's a good idea. Now I can go in knowing, okay, this is a hard level. I might be stuck here for a little while. And at first I was like, okay, this is a good idea. And then as I started going, I hit a level that wasn't a hard level, but I was stuck there for a good week. And I realized this hard level thing is a terrible idea, because now it makes me feel even stupider whenever I can't get past a level, because it's not a hard level, it's just a regular level. And it's almost like they're taunting me. Hey Mason, this isn't even a hard level. Why are you stuck on it? You idiot. And so my brain makes comparisons like that all the time, most of the time. I'm weird like that. But that's how I imagine it'll be. At first, you'll think, oh, this is great. Glenn's still alive. And then you start thinking about it. You start actually thinking about if they can come up with some clever way how he gets out of that situation, great. I can't think of any clever way right now, but they've always seemed to kind of raise the bar when it comes to that stuff. So if there is some way that, he somehow survives that, But my thing is, first of all, if he does survive it, I have a feeling like they'll just rip our hearts out even more by killing him off after that. Like I feel like he survives and he gets to see Maggie again, and then reveals that he's been bitten, and our hearts just like, like that would just be awful, and I'd probably find the writers and directors of the show and just like punch them all in the face and the nuts because that's how I'll feel. um, but I really, first of all, the fact that Glenn dies in the comics is just, it makes me feel like he's gonna die eventually anyway, and so to fake kill him off and then bring him back just so you'll kill him off again, which, they're not completely going by the comics obviously, but there's still some things that they've definitely done that are from the comics, and I've never read them, but I've read about the comics, and I know that there are things that they're doing that's the same. Um, but so I honestly feel like there's no good way to keep him alive. We've already gone through the experience of heartbreak and stomach churning when he died. I don't want to go through that again. So let's just, you know what? He's dead. I've gone through the whatever the 5 stages of death. The denial, acceptance, all that stuff. I've already accepted it. I've moved on. Let's not bring him back just to kill him off later. Like that would be awful. But I do feel like there is still going to be kind of a heartbreaking scene with him in it because, like everybody's saying, he's still on IMDb for the rest of. Yeah, but he wasn't even in the Morgan episode at all. So your theory has already gone out the window. Um, so I don't know. I feel like he may be in one more episode, but I worry that we're gonna see him as a walker. It's gonna be one of those scenes where they're like going, somehow they've made it through all the walkers and they're going through town like killing off all the walkers like in a group. Like they've all just become all these badass characters and they're all shooting up the walkers and slicing off their heads and stuff. And then Maggie sees him as a walker, and I don't know, like the problem with that is that I feel like if Maggie does see him dead, she says that she's accepted the fact that she may not see him again. Um, but I feel like if she sees him dead, like that will just take away all of her resolve. Because honestly, she almost lost it when Beth died last season, and I feel like Glenn was kind of the rock that she looked to keep her firmly on the ground through all of that. And I feel like losing him would just be, confirming that he's dead would just be the end for her. Like she would just have no more will. And the fact that she's pregnant also doesn't help that either, because it's like now you do. Well, maybe she would have the baby to live for now. So maybe that's like clever thinking by the writers. Like, yeah, Glenn died, but she's pregnant, so now she does have something to live for. See, stuff like that. They probably did do that. I'll be interested to see now. Anyway, enough about Maggie. Um, I will talk about their one scene in the sewer. Just she and Aaron. Aaron is obviously very torn up about the fact that he's the one that led the wolves there, and so he you kind of get this feeling that he's almost going on a suicide mission to like atone for what he's done, atone for his mistakes. And so he's trying to convince Maggie to take him with her to look for Glenn. And I kind of get why. Like he very clearly is upset by what he's done and feels like he's the one responsible. But so he kind of wants to go with her on this, not a suicide mission, but definitely is a suicide mission. And when they finally reach the end of the tunnel, Maggie just kind of comes to the realization of I can't go out there, and then reveals that she's pregnant, and stops Aaron from going out there, which is it's very nice because he was ready to go out there and possibly die, but he was going to die trying. He was going to die with a purpose. So it's much better than the the death that Gabriel tried to give to himself. still upset that he's on the show. Not not the actor, the character. I don't like Gabriel at all. He's a wuss. Anyway, and then they have one final scene where Maggie's going to clean off Glenn's name just because, it's not, she doesn't want to accept it until it's for sure. She's accepted the fact that she doesn't know and he could possibly be dead, but she doesn't want to completely give up hope. So, and then Aaron shows up, and you can tell that they're definitely forming a good friendship. I'm trying to think of what to talk about next. Talk about Ron next. He's a character that I don't really know what to think of right now. He and Carl have like a little... They have a fight, if that's what you can call it. If you watch The Talking Dead, they have that Fresh Buzz tweet from Subway, like all the funniest tweets or the best tweets of the night. And somebody put, "Forget the governor, Carl is now the shovener." And just, that was brilliant, because it was just a little shoving match between Carl and Ron. And then after that, Ron goes to talk to Rick, and it's like, I want to learn how to shoot a gun. Like, can you teach me? And here's the thing. I don't know if the kid that's playing this character, I don't know if he meant to portray it this way, or if it just accidentally was portrayed this way. But he's kind of acting like, I don't know, he's acting a little bit weird about it all. Like, there's a reason I don't trust him, and I can't really describe what it is. It's just, he has this feeling about him like, I don't know if I can trust this kid. He seems like he can't be trusted. Like, he seems like he's trying to work everybody. Because he and Carl talk about Enid and how she's over the wall now, likely. And Carl says, I'm going to go after her. And he's like, well, I'll tell Rick that, he's going out there, and then everybody will go out there, and then somebody will likely die. And then Carl, walks away, and then they have their shoving match, and then Carl shoves him to the ground. And as Carl's walking away again, he's like, hey, you saved my life. I'm just trying to return the favor. And the way he says it, he kind of sounds like he's being sarcastic about it. And like I said, I don't know if it was meant to be portrayed that way, but that's why I kind of, he sounds sarcastic when he's talking about that. And then he goes and tells Rick that Enid likely went over the wall, even though he said that he threatened to do it when Carl was going to go after her to make Carl not, and then goes ahead and tells Rick anyway. So I really don't know what his motivations are at this point. But I don't know. I don't feel like I don't feel like I can trust Ron right now. Next, talk about Jessie, because I think she's becoming a more important character, mainly because I can't remember if I talked about this last week, but I talked about how Morgan, his philosophy is fighting against the madness that this world kind of brings, and Rick is, it's a different way to survive, where most of these people, they have some weakness that they won't survive because of it. Rick's cut out all the weaknesses, while Morgan is fighting against anything that, makes him weak, anything that makes him evil, anything like that. And so I talked about how he might, I can't remember, if I didn't talk about it, I wanted to talk about how Morgan might kind of be the one leading Rick back to the sane side, because he's clearly lost it at some points. But I think that Jessie might be another guiding light for him, just because she, it's somebody to remind him of what was going on before, that he could love another woman again. So it's kind of a scene that really makes us think that maybe Rick still does have a good sense about him. Maybe he still can be turned back to the Rick before the apocalypse, the Rick that's not completely insane and practically a wolf at this point, just not as bloodthirsty. But she also does have a scene where, and totally, I don't know when this happened, but totally lost the fact that Uh, they show the one scene where a girl like is a walker inside a house, and Jesse kills that walker. I totally missed the fact that that's Betsy, the woman that the guy wrote the note to, his wife, and then died out there. And they said it at the end of the Talking Dead. She killed herself because of that, and I don't even know if they showed it or not, but it just kind of, when I saw her, I was just like, oh, somebody died inside their house? What happened? And then whenever they showed that, it's like, what? Like, what? What? It just kind of caught me by surprise. I was like, that's Betsy? She killed herself? Did they tell us that? Um, so, that was interesting. But then she kind of has a speech with the townspeople saying, I didn't want to realize what this world is, but this is what it is now. And a lot of speeches at the beginning of this one, within the first 15 minutes, just like speech after speech. And I caught myself thinking, man, like these people just. We've had 3, like, speeches to kind of set them straight, and they're still looking at her like she has no idea what she's talking about. I'm like, look, if Martin Luther King Jr. was here, he wouldn't even get through these people. Like, they're getting all these speeches telling them how it is, and they're still like, whatever. Like, no wonder these Alexandrians are going out like flies. Even though it feels like we lost like 10 in that one episode where the wolves attacked, and it feels like there are 10 more from before. So it feels like the Alexandrians, like every time one of them dies, 2 more come back. It's like the Hydra. But anyway, the other scene with Jessie is with Sam, her other son, and you really get to see Sam, how he has been affected by all of this. She wants him to come get the cookies, but he doesn't want to go downstairs because upstairs is still the same. And it's kind of profound for coming from a kid. Like, just the fact that he realizes that things are different now, that things aren't the same as when everything was good and everything was going great, and his dad was still alive. They were there, they were still alive, and they didn't have to do anything to survive. And now he realizes that things are different, and now he does have things to do. So that was interesting. But that's, between her son Sam, and then talking to the people after killing Betsy, and then having the scene at the end with Rick where they finally get together. She did have a very interesting story arc this episode. Starting from the very beginning, like, you see how she's changed. And I mean, she does have potential, because you look at Carol. She started off with a little girl and an abusive husband, both of which have died, and now she's become a total killing machine. Obviously Jessie only lost her abusive husband, but not her kids, so I don't think she's nearly to Carol's level yet, but that she could go there. So it's interesting to see where they're going to take her. The most interesting story in this one was definitely Deanna. When I started off with this episode and I saw her, I was like, she's gonna die soon. Like, she looked like a ghost. Like, she looked like she was just so lost. She had no idea what was going on. And first of all, I'm assuming it was the makeup work on her, but her face was pale. It looked like there were more wrinkles on her than there were before. She just looked much, much older than she did last season. And it totally makes sense. She lost a lot of stuff. So, very interesting. And it felt like for the first half of this episode, she was a walker. She wasn't actually a walker, but it felt like she was mentally not there. She was just walking around with this blank look on her face. She looked dead inside. And then Spencer, her other son, that didn't die, he sees people stealing, and so does she, but she doesn't do anything about it. And he goes in there and tells them, look, we still have to fight for each other. As soon as we stop caring about each other, that's when this place falls apart. And at first they're all just like, whatever. And they really, he has to put that point to, that's how this place will fall apart, is doing this stuff, not looking out for each other. And it kind of clicks with her. And so she she goes home. She like gets out a piece of paper and then draws up all of these plans and stuff, like where the crops are going to be planted, stuff like that. Like it looked like what he said, and seeing that her son was kind of standing up and saying this stuff kind of really made her feel like, well, maybe we can do this. Maybe we can survive. And then she goes downstairs and sees that Spencer has stolen stuff, and you kind of like, I was kind of shocked at first, and he talks about it, and he's just like, well, if everybody did it, then there'd be no hope. But if one person does it, nobody's gonna miss it. And I was just like, wow, like you almost feel like he's kind of going towards Rick in his area where screw everybody else except for myself. Which, Rick is not just himself, it's also the people around him and the people he cares about. But you kind of see him stooping down to that level of, I'm looking out for me. So that was interesting to see him do that. And of course, Deanna, I wasn't really sure how she was going to react because it seemed like his speech kind of got through to her. And so I thought maybe seeing him, the fact that he was being a hypocrite and the fact that he didn't really mean half of what he said, I was worried she was going to go back to Walker State again. And at first I thought she was, because she was walking, dead look on her face again, carrying the stuff back to the pantry. And all of a sudden the Walker goes to attack her. And it turns out to be a wolf that got away from Carol. And she drops the basket, bottle breaks open, she sees it, and she grabs it and starts stabbing him in the chest. Like, you gotta go for the head, right? And it's in the head. Like, you should know this by now, but I mean, she really goes to town on him. Just he falls over. She gets on top of him, just stabbing the crap out of his chest. And Rick sees this, comes over and stabs it in the head. And they kind of have a moment where she finally tells Rick, I can't lead them. You have to. Like, she kind of just accepts the fact that she's not fit to lead in this world because she doesn't know what the world is like. And I think this episode, seeing Spencer, seeing the Walkers coming to attack the town, you kind of understand why she has realized this. Like, this episode changed her. So it was really nice to see kind of her change throughout this episode as well. And a little worried about the final scene with her, though. She goes up and bangs on the fence and then kind of smirks, like she's... I don't know what that was about, but I'm worried that she angered the Walkers and they're going to bust through the gate now. But then it shows the walls bleeding, and I'm worried that maybe... I don't really know what that means. It seemed kind of ominous, but at the same time it's but it's just blood. But why is it bleeding? Is this Walker blood? Is somebody outside getting ripped to shreds? What's going on? I'm kind of confused right now. Or maybe it was just, figurative foreshadowing like blood. That's what's that's what's about to happen. You're about to see a lot of blood. So, interesting ending. And trying to think if there's anything else really worth mentioning. You have the doctor girl. It looked like she had saved what's his name, the Alexandrian guy that got shot in the leg last week. It looked like she kind of saved him. She was looking through all these books, trying to figure out what's wrong with him, and then gets the pus out of his wound, and it looked like maybe that was enough or something. I don't know exactly what that was. I'm not a medical person, but she kind of figures out what's wrong, and then I'm not really sure what. She and Tara share a kiss, and I'm not really sure if it's because she actually feels something for Tara because of everything Tara's done for her, or if she's just you know what, it's the end of the world, so wherever you can find love, whatever. But Tara kind of tries to reassure her, look, it's not the end of the world. It's this is not the end. Which, of course, as we all know in TV shows, when anybody says this is not the... It's about to be the end for that character, most likely. And I don't want to say that about Tara, because she's a good character. But generally, nothing else can go wrong. Everything goes wrong. So this is not the end. It is the end. I'm very interested to see where this is going, how long they're going to stay in Alexandria because there are so many walkers outside. But next week looks like it's not going to be about Alexandria at all, so who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, very interesting story. Not a whole lot happens, not a whole lot of action-y scenes. You have Maggie and Aaron getting attacked by walkers in the sewer. You're like, they're not going to die. You have Deanne getting attacked by walkers. She might die. No, she's not going to die. So, it was more a character-based episode. You get to see a bit more about these characters. You get to see a bit of character growth. You find out Maggie's pregnant. So it was still a very interesting, revealing episode. Good character building, but not a whole lot of, it wasn't people dying left and right like the first 3 episodes. So it was a very, very, very good episode. But I'm more excited to see where it's going. But I'm also kind of nervous. Every single episode that I go into now, like after Glenn, it's just like, I don't want to watch this anymore. Like, it really hurt when Glenn got his guts ripped out. And yeah, I don't want it to hurt more. But that's just me. So what did you think? Comment down below. Is The Walking Dead really as good as I'm saying it is? Because that's worth talking about. Because it's probably, the way it's going now, it's setting up to be one of the best shows of all time, and that's saying something. So, but yeah, that's it for this episode. Go Daryl and Sasha and Abraham next week. Don't die, please, none of you. Like, predictions for next week, just because I feel like we need to talk about predictions. I'm worried one of those 3 are gonna die. I don't think it'll be Daryl, because I feel like if they've already possibly killed off Glenn, I'm almost positive Glenn's dead. Just letting you guys know. But if they kill off Daryl, I feel like nobody would watch the show anymore. Like, just because the two main people that you don't want to die at all are Rick and Daryl, obviously, and I feel like Carol's on my list now. So if Daryl dies, I may stop watching forever. But it's possible Sasha or Abraham might. I feel like Abraham's kind of there. Like he's finally lost his mind, and I'm worried he might die next week. So we'll see where it goes, but for now, this is a very good episode. Not very often that we can kind of, with all of this chaos going around, still build character. So the fact that they were able to do that is very good. So that's it for this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.